We are also going to record this morning and make parts of it available in tutorials in the future. We encourage you to use the chat feature to be able to ask questions. All of you should be muted, but you can. I'll try to monitor, as well as we have a couple of others on today that are going to help monitor the chat box and answer any questions. So my plan today is I'm going to start with just a couple of kind of simple navigation type of things that maybe you didn't realize you could do with DataMaster, make it a little bit simpler, a little bit easier to accommodate your particular workflow. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time in the different sections of DataMaster, showing you a few tips and tricks from each of those sections. And in the very end, we'll end up moving the report that we've been working with into the form software, so you can kind of see how that worked. I am also, towards the end, going to show you how to add an additional comparable to a file that you've already created. So if you've already got a file, and maybe you have a client that's asked you to reconsider value, and you need to add an additional comparable to it, or you want to come in and look at some additional comparables, or maybe you saved a couple comps that you didn't move in the first time, and now you need to move them into the report. So we're gonna end with that today. So we're gonna get started. A couple of navigation items, and please feel free to chat any questions that you may have. We do these webinars on a regular basis, about every other Tuesday. The next one will be May 24th. They're always about the same time, 11 o'clock Mountain Time. Hopefully we catch you during your lunch hour, and we can make this it work a little bit better for your schedule. So first of all, what you're looking at on the screen, hopefully you're seeing my DataMaster screen. Let me just see. I believe we are. So you're seeing the home page for DataMaster. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see 3 bars. Those are what we refer to as a hamburger menu. I'm not sure why the industry refers to them as that, but that's what they are. So the upper left-hand corner, this is where you would do any global settings that you want to change or access. So I'm going to show you how to navigate and change the way that DataMaster starts up once you get a file going. So if you go to the settings and then general, in the general setting file, you're going to find items that apply to every type of report that we have, every work file that you're going to create. We also have a lot of settings and customization within each report at a field and element level, but these are going to be those fields in general. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is the navigation side. A lot of folks don't know that by default, you can change how DataMaster starts. So if you like to always start with the subject, then you just select the subject. I like to start with the market conditions, and so I have mine set for market condition. And you can also set it for comparables. So this is where you would make that change. It's just under the hamburger menu, in the settings, under general, and then default to the market, to whatever location you want to start with. Maybe some of you have a trainee and you want that trainee or the assistant to start your file, and it makes sense for them to start with the subject at that point. And this will reduce the number of clicks that you need to that are required as you work through. You can also explore here and see some of the other settings that we're not going to touch those today. One you might see though is where you can browse to have any of your files saved. So I'm just going to keep that in the market conditions where I have it normally. And if you need to make that change, you can. A couple of other things on the home page, our property search feature. You can search not only within reports once you've started a work file, but here globally by either address, assessor parcel number, or MLS number. And once you find the property that you're looking for, we'll ask you if you want to start a report with that property. The other tip that I like to point out on the main page here is a lot of folks, they're not sure where their files are being stored, how we're storing and where those files are being stored. Just so that you know, DataMaster doesn't store any of your work files. The only thing that we store is your customization file, and that enables you to be able to move from computer to computer. If you were to sit at my desk, log in as yourself, your customizations would be your own. They would not be mine. And so we store that customization file. But your DataMaster files, your DMA files, you can access by under My Files, and you can tell it wherever you want it to store. You can store it on a OneDrive, you can store it on a local server, a local drive, a VPN, anywhere you'd like to store it. If you need multiple people to access it, maybe you've got an assistant or trainee that also needs to access the file, you can dictate where that DMA file is stored. And we'll remember that location every time. The recent files are just the ones that you've been working on most recently, but to access all of your files, you would go to My Files. So I'm going to start today with a file that we're just going to use as a demo. This is a report that I've already done and turned in. There's a lot of data here. There's a lot of fields that are filled out, and so it gives us the ability to show a lot of the tips and the features that we have. This happened to be an FHA property, so I'm just going to call it Demo FHA, and then I'm going to select the form type. So as you'll notice here, the first thing that came up was the market analysis tab. I can move to the other tabs, but the place that I like to begin is the market analysis tab. And I wanted to show you how you can load multiple export files into the market analysis. This will first of all, I'm going to load the market conditions file. So this is a file that I'd already created from my MLS, and it'll take just a second here. These are properties that are very similar to the subject. They're the ones that I would consider competing properties. And this is about 2 years worth of data. 2 years is what I like to put in the report. It gives me the ability to look at multiples, at seasonality, goes through at least 4 quarters. Now I'm going to add the neighborhood data. So I change from my competing market to my neighborhood market, and also get comparables. You'll notice we've tried to maintain and keep the consistency. No matter which part of DataMaster you're in, adding data is done very similar in all of the different areas, and that's on purpose so that we can maintain some consistency. It makes it easier to navigate and work. So this is about 600 files, 600 listings. I mean, my MLS limits me to only exporting 600 at a time. But in this particular market, I had more than 600 listings that I wanted to include in the past 2 years. And so I'm going to add another file. I had to create 2 separate files. This time, when I go to open it, DataMaster is going to pause and it's going to ask me, what do you want to do? There's already some data in here. What do you want to do? Do you want to cancel this? Do you want to append, meaning add to the existing data that's already there? Or if you hit no, it will clear out the data and we'll put this data, this new data in its place. So I'm just going to hit append because I want to add to it. And it will add those additional listings that my MLS limited me on bringing in one export file. You can add as many import files as you want. It doesn't matter. There's no limit within DataMaster as to how many we can consume, and so usually the limit is on the MLS side. One of the things that we do when we're appending, just for your information, is we double check to make sure that there's no duplicate MLS listings. And you can see that in the detail sheet. If you click to the detail, here's all of the data that I just loaded, all 624 MLS listings. And we can see them either the entire list. I can look at just the last 3 months. This is a great way to analyze that data. I can also move these columns around and I can sort by the individual columns by just clicking on the header. This is a lot easier for me to look through listings than maybe in my MLS. They're just not set up this way. But one of the ways that I can double check and make sure that we didn't duplicate any listings is by sorting either by the MLS number or by the address. Now I'm sorted by address. I can see, well, there's a couple of properties here, number 8, 9, and 10, that are all the same address, but they have different listing numbers. So they were listed at different times. This first one, number 8, was canceled. The next one, number 9, was listed from June 2020 to June 4th, 2020. And it sold during that time. This is also a great way that you can find paired sales for maybe some time adjustments, something that you may be looking for. You can see in this particular data, there's a couple of other ones, but they're all individual listings that occurred at different times, even though the properties may be the same. We'll talk here in a minute a little bit more about the market conditions, but I just wanted to show you how you can append or add listings into the market analysis or the neighborhood analysis. Let's see. So the next thing that I want to do is show you how you can add the subject property, and I'm doing this more so that as we look at the comparables, I'll be able to point out some of the features and tips and tricks in the comparable grid. Again, once I go to the subject tab, I can either get subject information, and again, the search routine comes up. I can do it by either address or MLS number. We make the assumption that you probably have an address to start with. Another way that I can move the subject in is from the comparable grid itself by just saying add subject. That same routine comes in. I can also move the subject from comparables if they were loaded. I can also move it from the market analysis. So if this particular property was my subject, I would simply click on it, and now it would populate the subject column or portion of the report. Mine doesn't happen to be that. I'm going to use an MLS number. You'll notice that I don't have to log back into my MLS to get this. It just, we go out and find it for you with your credentials in the MLS, accessing the backend database. And so the subject information has come in. One tip that I wanted to point out on the subject page, it seems to me that customization is very important. The more I work with DataMaster, the better I customize it to the way that I want it. One of the fields that, and any of these fields can be customized as long as they don't conflict with, if this was a UAD report, which it is, we don't allow you to customize something that should be UAD compliant. But any field within here, you can click on that field and format it or customize it. So I'm going to look at this neighborhood name. This is one that maybe you spend some time with. If you right click, a mini menu is going to come up. That's one of the tips today. The mini menu is by right clicking. I can look at the data source, the priority, or the format. Right now, I'm going to look at format. We have some basic formatting that looks like this, that gets us, that is the default DataMaster basic formatting. But to do some advanced formatting in any of the fields, I would go to the bottom and there's a hyperlink in the word that says use advanced formatting. I'm going to click on that, and this workspace comes up that allows me to add elements, add functionality, add an operator, add constant values. And once you kind of get the hang of this, it's not very difficult to understand the methodology behind it. And we're happy to help you if there's something that you see that or some sort of customization that you're not getting. We'd be happy to help you with that. I'm going to reset this field to the standard format. And it'll take just a second here to reset so that you can see what it looks like without my formatting in. And then we'll reformat this the way that I like it to be. And as we're doing that, you'll get to see some of the flexibility of the customization and the dynamic, the power behind customizing. Many of us have slowed down a little bit the last couple of weeks as mortgage starts have slowed, and this gives us an opportunity to maybe fine-tune our customizations, fine-tune our reports, go back and look through our templates, make sure that everything looks the way that it should. I apologize, this takes just a minute because it's going through all of the different reports that are not reports, but the different forms that we have, and making sure that this is set for those fields. I'll just take one second here. I'm going to show you a couple of formatting on the grid as well, and then also how to prioritize. One of the things that DataMaster allows you to do is to pick where your data comes from. Some of the fields, I trust my county records more than I trust the MLS records. So I like those fields to come initially from the public records. Other fields I trust the MLS better or more, and I want those fields to come from the MLS. And so we'll show you a little bit about prioritization of each of the different fields as well. And of course, when we're doing this live, it always seems to take a little bit longer. I thought it was just about done there. Okay, so you'll see that by default, it says King's Edition or King's, and the way that the place that we got this information, we can look at the data source, is it came from the public records. This is the neighborhood name that's listed within the public record. If the MLS had a subdivision name or a neighborhood name, it could have come from there as well. So that's how we find that. And the way I got to that was right-clicking and going to data source, or you could hit Control D. We can see how the priority for this field is. I have it prioritized. I first want it to come in from public record and then from the MLS. If I want to change this priority and say have it come in from the MLS first, I would simply select my MLS and I would move it to the top. And now it's going to look in the MLS first and then in public record. And you can do this with any field. You just simply right click and go to priority. So now I'm going to put this back the way that I like it to be on the formatting. So I'm going to go to Format. I'm going to use Advanced Formatting. And the first thing that I want to do is bring in an element. So an element is something that applies to that field. In this case, it defaults to the neighborhood name because that's how we've mapped that field, is called neighborhood name. But I want to look for some other fields. I like to have the city come in first and then the neighborhood name. So here's, I would uncheck Show Only Suggested Elements. And you can see that there's a lot of elements that you can customize. Honestly, I don't know how many there are, but there's an awful lot of them. So I'm going to look for city. There's the city. So I want the city to come in first. I'm going to add that as an element. And then I want to add a constant value. So I want to separate this by a by a colon and then a space. And I'm going to add that as the constant value. And then I'm going to add one more element, that neighborhood name. So the way that this is going to look is the city's going to come in first, then semicolon, then neighborhood name. And then it asks me, how do you want this? Which forms do you want this to apply to? Right now, I'm just going to say the current one. That should make it go a little bit faster. I'll come back after the webinar and get the rest of them. But I'm just going to apply that. I could also apply it to the comparables. In this case, the comparables wouldn't really apply because they don't have a neighborhood name field in this particular form. So it's going to go through really quick there, format and then from now on, I don't have to change this. It's going to come into my report with the city, semicolon, space, and then the neighborhood name. So there may be some fields within your report that you're always changing, things that you're constantly changing within the report. Let us try to format those for you so that those are items that you don't have to change on a regular basis. They can be things as simple as maybe you want every time the location to come in neutral residential, and then you'll change if it's on a busy street or if there's an exception to that rule. Maybe you always want the properties to start as the default Q3 or Q4. We can set those for the subject and the comparable properties as the default, and then you're only changing those that are the exception to the rule rather than the rule. So you'll see now this field, we have Ogden is the city, a space, and then King's Edition. So any of these fields can be formatted by right-clicking on them, getting to the format, and let us know how we can maybe help you that way. Let's go to the comparable grid now real quick. I'm going to load some comparables that we already that I had already selected from the MLS. I could move these from the market analysis over as well. I could type in individual MLS numbers. And one tip while it's doing this is if you choose to load based on an export file, we're going to, by default, put the most recent comparable first and the most recent active listing last. So we're going to go from the newest sale to the oldest sale, and then under contracts, and then active listings. But if you choose to type in the MLS numbers, you can type in a string of MLS numbers with a comma separating them, and we'll import them in the order in which you type in the MLS numbers. And in a second, I'll show you how that works. So we have a lot of appraisers that like to have their assistant download their comparables or import their comparables. And so they'll give them a list and they'll say, I want this one to be number 1. I want this to be number 2, this to be number 3. So as the assistant's typing those in that order, that's the order that we'll put them in, even if comparable number 1 happened to be an older sale than, say, comparable number 3. So that's the logic behind how this data gets imported. And my MLS or my internet must be running slow today, because it usually doesn't take this long to load 6 comparables. If I have a hidden window here that's blocking something. Don't think so. Try and be a little more patient, sorry. Maybe open up a few resources by closing a couple of other files. So a lot of the performance is dependent on a couple of things. It's dependent on how busy your MLS may be. If we're reaching out right now, downloading these photos, we're reaching out to my MLS, and we're also, so it could be dependent on my internet speed, how busy the MLS is at this particular time, and then also the processing speed of my desktop computer as well. Sorry, this is very frustrating for me. That's a good question. It looks like Marty put in the chat there if anyone has any questions while I'm waiting for this to load. I hesitate to try to cancel it. But I'm wondering if it's something on my MLS side. Let me try something just a little bit different. Chris just sent me a text and said Zoom does use a lot of memory. So I'm gonna input these separately here for a second, and maybe try and speed it up instead of using the export file. Let me just open up this file real quick and I'll get the MLS numbers.
And Jared, we did have a question come up about comp tracker. So I think
Okay.
we're going to cover that in the next one, but in the next Tuesday tips. But if you could, I don't know if you could get into that a little bit today too.
Yeah. Let me, I'm just gonna move in a couple of comparables here using the string method or the comma separated method. A lot of appraisers didn't know that you could do it this way. So if you just have an MLS number that you want to add, we'll search these and put these three in, and it will show us the comp tracker stuff as well. So that'll be great. Yeah, it could be the MLS. Let me switch screens here and check my MLS and see if our MLS is hopefully the MLS didn't go down in the middle of our presentation. Mm.
And then, Jared, there is another question about formatting options working, basic formatting options. How do they work? But I know you're still having trouble with the connection, it looks like. So sorry
Yeah,
to we're on to keep coming on with questions.
no, that's okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why the photos are hanging up in the MLS. The basic formatting, there's a couple of different, depending on the field. The basic formatting is a result of research that we've done for each particular MLS. So before we go into an MLS, we will look at and we'll survey appraisers and try to find out how most of the field should be formatted so that kind of out of the box, the basic formatting hits the majority of users without having to do any advanced formatting. I'm going to stop this real quick for a second. I'm going to close this. Let me try one more thing here. Let's see if it might be any faster to bring a couple of these in from this will help me figure out if it's the MLS, and I think it is. Marty, we may be stuck today.
I know
Chris,
it's Murphy's Law.
I know. Chris, do you have any suggestions? I think this is I think the MLS is going slow. I'm having a hard time logging in from my location here. I hope it's not my internet. But if it was, then the the webinar would have failed as well.
I don't know if Chris is going to be able to talk to us. I think we'll have to wait for him to message us in our
Okay,
chat.
I'm going to close this file real quick and just restart here and see if maybe there was something that glitched. See if I can't get it to reconnect to the MLS. Can you still see my screen, Marty?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully this will solve it. All right, we're going to open the file that we just had. And let me try to load, see if this. That seemed to do it. All right, so we're back on track there. So these are comparables that I had in an export file. I'm not going to use all of these comparables. I'm going to use some of them, though. I want to consider, and then I won't move them into my report. Somebody asked about Comp Tracker. I'll just give you a preview for Comp Tracker. We're going to go through this in our next Tuesday tip as well. In the grid, you'll notice a blue icon or a blue logo that's the DataMaster logo, and then there's a red dot with some numbers in it. And it might be hard for you to see, but this comparable number 1 has 2 in it. If I click on that, you'll see that there's 2 instances that I've used this comparable in my reports. One was actually in the file right now that I already delivered to the client. And another one, it was an active listing or an under contract listing at the time. And so Comp Tracker keeps track of the data so that the times in which you've used these comparables so that you can stay consistent. Comp Tracker also allows you to partner with or associate with other appraisers. And I'll see if I have one in this file where we've done that. Yep, this particular one, comparable number 7, I used it in the report, and also Ben used it in a report. Ben has given me permission. I've given him permission to share data. He actually uses a different form software vendor than I do. And this allows us to look at information that we've both used and how we've used it. Confidential information is not shared. That would be a USPAT violation. But it tells me that he used it as a comparable. If it had been the subject and his square footage was different, I could give him a call and say, hey, your square footage is different than the MLS. Talk it through, verify what was different. So it's a very useful tool that's independent of who your form software may be. It's based on permissions granted. So you have to be, you have to share and agree to the share between appraisers. By default, our unlimited users, we save your data to your Comp Tracker database when you export into your report, or when you send the DataMaster file to your report. So a couple of getting back on track here. Sorry for the delay. A couple of things that I wanted to show on the grid was moving comparables around. Some of you may not know that you can use the down arrow. If I wanted this comparable number 5 to be number 3, I could simply select number 3. It's now going to change the position with number 3. Another item that I wanted to show you, of course, we can we can format any of the cells the same way that we did in the subject section, unless it's a UAD field, and then we're going to hold true to the UAD formatting so that you don't get in trouble by formatting something the way that it shouldn't be formatted. One thing that you can see is the priority. So I'll show you the priority using the site line or the site field. If you right click and hit priority, I like the area to come from public record first and from MLS second. So this works as a waterfall. If the public record was blank and had no data, then it would next move to the MLS in this particular case. We always display the comp tracker data first by just accessing comp tracker data. So if you've already used it in comp tracker, you're going to want to use that data because you've already sent it. And then let's see, what else did I want to show here? We'll talk about deed verification and some of the other tips and tricks on that in another session. But one of the questions that we get quite often is how you add additional comparables to a report that's already been had comparables brought into it. And especially since this is a little different than how we did it in our classic product, I'd like to show you how we can move data. So on the Send and Review tab, you can see everything that we've done up to this point. If you click on the little pencil icon, checkbox icon, you'll see 8 properties are included. If I don't want to move all 8 of these, let's say that I only want to move 1 through 6, I would unselect 7 and 8, and those now will stay in my work file, my DataMaster digital work file. They will not move into my report. So that's, and then if I hit OK, it now tells me that I'm moving 6 properties into the report instead of 8. So let's go back to our comparables, and let's say that my underwriter said I've already moved 6 into my report. Let's say that they gave me another property and they said, can you consider this property? And I'm just going to say it's this number 1, this Jackson Avenue. And it's going to move it into the 9 spot. I could either type it in, or I could move it in from the market analysis. I could import another export file. So let's say that this number 9, I look at, they want me to add it to the report and consider it. I'm going to move it to the number 7 spot, because originally I only had 6 comparables go in, and now I want to move just number 7 in. So I'm going to unselect all of them and select 7 and hit OK. And now 7 will be the only comparable that will move in, 1 property, and it's going to move into the number 7 spot within your form. And I'll show you that here real quick. I'm just going to send only that 1 comparable, number 7, to the report. And I'm just going to put it into a blank report without a template. So you can see that just the number 7 moved in. If you were putting it into an existing report, you don't necessarily have to have the 7, 8, 9 addendum in. We'll get that for you automatically. with the exception of ACI, if you're using ACI, you may have to have that that loaded first. It'll take just a second here. Not sure where it went. Let's try it one more time. I think I hit the wrong button. Okay, so we want to just create a new report with, and it's going to, by default, name it the subject name. And at this point, it's in the form vendors kind of world. And so some of this is dependent on the form vendor and how they handle the data once we give it over to them. It looks like it's still trying to put it into a existing report. Let's see. There's a couple of questions while Total is working here. I use Total as my form vendor. It says, which box are you talking about for comp tracker? In DataMaster Pro, the comp tracker box is or icon is the blue logo, DataMaster logo. And if there is a instance of which we've used or you've used that comparable before, you'll see a red dot with the number of times you've used it. For example, this number 7 I've not used before. And so it's grayed out. There are no instances of when I've used this Jackson Avenue property. So there is no comp tracker data. These other ones, there is comp tracker data. And as soon as I click on it, you can see what's in the report now and what I used before. And if I select the fields, I can check and uncheck the fields that I want to populate. Anything that is orange is different from what's in the grid. I can update, and then I don't have to retype everything in. It's now coming in based on what was in my database, my comp database before. This is comp number 5. If I close that, you can see now that comp number 5 has all the fields filled in. This is exactly the way that it went to my client in the original report. So let me just look at a couple of the others.
And Jared, real quick, let me jump in here. So
yeah.
To make sure that comp tracker is working, you can go to the settings and go to the comp tracker settings down there, like Jared's doing. And if you haven't used comp tracker yet, it'll ask you to if you want to start using it. And then the best way to get your properties in there that you've used in the past is to upload the Mismo file. So there's that button there that takes you to a website. And with the Zoom problems we've been having, I don't want to tax it, but this is what it looks like. So what you can do is upload your previously used Mismos into Comp Tracker, so it's there, so that they're there already.
So yeah, we can load, we can help you load as many Mismo files as you would like to load. If you load the last 6 months of your Mismo files, they're all going to then be in your Comp Tracker database. If you load 2 years worth, you're going to have 2 years worth of data in there. But this is how you would load it, and then it will give you a report that tells you which ones were successfully loaded and which ones were not successfully loaded. So that's great, Marty. Yeah, this is how you would set it up. And if you want to share with someone, and we'll go over this next time, how you invite appraisers to join your peer group, and what they can and cannot share within that. Thank you, Chris, for that message. So, okay. Let me see one other thing before we end. I wanted to take a quick look. We just have a few minutes here left. A quick look at the summary sheet. This is something that in our basic training we don't get to spend much time on, and I wanted to show you it's very valuable for helping you to kind of delineate your market, for you to make some trending decisions. I'm in the competing market, the MC page, and you can see that we have a table that we've created that's based on the data that you've given us. So those market analysis files that I originally loaded in the very beginning, this is where the data comes from, or that's where the data comes from for these tables. It tells me what my subject, the subject is like, because I put my subject information in. And then we look at the data and we say, basically, based on your data, here's the range of criteria that you likely had, or at least the result of that range in your MLS search. Now, you may not have put up to 5 bedrooms in this particular case in your search criteria. You may have put no bedroom criteria, but we look and we found that some of your comparables had 0 bedrooms and some had 5 bedrooms. And so we're going to give you the high and the low range there. Let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger so it's a little easier to read. I think I can zoom this up a little bit so that you can see this table and how it works. So the annual comparison also comes from that data, and this is something that I like to point out. It's really very helpful information. We compare the previous 12 months to the current 12 months for both the competing market and the neighborhood market data if you put both data sets in. And so I can see that 13 to 24 months ago, or basically a year, 2 years ago, we had, in this particular data set, we had 171 sales. And in the last 12 months, we were down. We had fewer sales, 139. But sale price went from 228 to 285. These are based on the medians. These are median numbers, not averages. The price per square foot, or sale price per square foot, increased. The days on market were about the same. The list to sale price ratio was about the same. The GLA was about the same, and the age was just slightly different. Lot size is about the same. equal. The median number of bedrooms and bathrooms was the same. So this is some very helpful information. Sometimes you have a rural area where you don't have a lot of competing sales, and you can add your larger neighborhood markets. Maybe you get data from several different smaller rural areas and combine those because they're competing. They compete against each other. You could put all of those in your neighborhood and see how your trend is compared to your individual market. So this summary becomes very helpful, or this annual comparison. And then under the summary tab, we have a price per square foot trend line chart. The red diamonds are the comparables that have sold, and you can see them relevant to all of the other sales. You can click on those sales and see when they occurred. This is over time. We also, under the summary tab, will automatically for you parse out or display the average, the mean, the average sale price, the median or the mid sale price, the mode, and then the range, the low sale and the high sale. In this particular case, I have this low sale of $87,000, which seems to be really odd. I can go to the details sheet and I can take out my outliers. I'm going to just look for list price, sort by list price, and here's that property that sold. I could do some more research, get that MLS number, take a look at it. But let's say I wanted to just take that particular sale out for some reason. Maybe it was the house was in poor condition and it was just really a land only sale. It doesn't belong. If I highlight it, I just hit the delete key. It removes it from my data and I hit save changes. And now as we save those changes, all of the data is updated. If I go back to market analysis, I look at the summary, you'll see now that the range is different. 117 is now the low instead of that 87. Everything has updated. All the graphs have updated. All of the 1004MC data or comments, smart field comments have updated. Our annual comparison is updated. Everything is updated as you remove or add to that market analysis. Looks like I've got one more question. Isn't the neighborhood usually smaller than the competing market? Seems like the market analysis has that backwards. I appreciate, Matt, that comment. You can use it either way. In different parts of this is an ongoing debate. I teach a lot of different classes that relevant to market and neighborhood analysis, and we had to come up with some sort of label. In our particular case, we're saying that the competing market is equal to what you would put in your 1004MC, and the neighborhood would be that larger market that you're comparing it to. And you can see it, you can use it that way. Sometimes I'll even use this tool to look at the difference between properties that are on a golf course and off golf course. And it doesn't matter which section I put them in, I can compare them to each other. It's just simply a way of comparing group sales or group listings in a tool that's very easy, that creates some really great graphs. And so it's one of the tools that I really like to use. It's much easier than trying to do it in my MLS. So thank you, Matt, for that question. But yeah, unfortunately, some of a lot of the forms, they don't have a spot for these charts and graphs, and so we keep them in your work file for you. You can cut and paste them or do screenshots with them. and sometimes I'll add those into a report that way. So we've gone about an hour, which is what we wanted, what we've asked you to stay for. Join us again next in 2 weeks on the 24th, and we'll look more into the comp tracker feature and some tips and tricks there, and maybe we'll spend some more time in the market analysis tool as well. If there's no other questions, we'll sign off. I'll just wait for a few minutes and look and see if we've got any other questions that have come in. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and a very profitable week.